Coming to you from the Oddball Podcast Studios in New York City. My name is Vin Forte, and you're listening to Oddball with Vin Forte. Go follow the show over on, well, before even social media, you should go follow it over on YouTube. That's always the big one. Started putting up videos a couple months ago. Want to keep that train going. So youtube.com/@Oddball Podcast if you're only listening to the pod. And vice versa, if you're only watching the pod, you want to listen on the go, get it wherever you get your podcasts from, including Apple, Spotify, Google Play. You know where to get podcasts from because you're listening to one right now. But again, YouTube is the big one, youtube.com/@Oddball Podcast. Follow on all the socials, @Oddball Podcast on Twitter, @Oddball_pod over on Instagram. Follow the personal accounts @MightyVin over on Twitter, @VinForteNYC over on Instagram. If you forget any of those, this is why you gotta watch. That's why you gotta watch on YouTube, because there's a little Chiron at the bottom where you can get all of that information from, as well as it's in the description of the episode that you are watching right now. So big show today. More of an old school show. It's just gonna be me solo. I know for the past couple months I've had guests. I try and have a guest every week, even if it's someone just to bounce the topics off of. But this week we're going to do a kind of an old-fashioned episode of Oddball, where we go around the horn on the entire NBA and where everyone in the Western Conference stands, where everyone in the Eastern Conference stands. And we're going to cool down with quite a classic cool down segment, because we got a new food alert, new snack alert. And this one's quite, if I can say, I think we got a banger alert here. This one is going to be one that you're going to want to run out and get, but I'll explain all of that later. Before we even get into, running down both conferences, there's absolutely no way we could start without talking about this man. This big old chunk of fool's gold known as Doc Rivers. So, the Bucks fired their coach, Adrian Griffith, and look, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I wasn't shocked like everyone else. I was, and I think a lot of people are still shocked because they're like, the Bucks had a 30-13 record. What was the problem here? And it's one of those things where if you're not really following the Bucks, if you're just watching on the periphery, I totally get it. Totally get why you would watch the Bucks casually and go, okay, why are they doing this to this guy? Like, what's going on with this team? But they've had a lot of problems on defense. They've had a lot of coaching choices internally. The players, from what I've heard, don't really, they like him just fine. Giannis is the one that brought him in. But at the end of the day, it kind of just wasn't jiving, wasn't working out. They needed to get better on defense. Now, look, this isn't all the coach's fault. Obviously, someone should scoop him up. 30-13 coach. I think that warrants a chance in the NBA. But with that aside, they did have defensive issues. But at the same time, you gave up Drew Holiday, granted, to get Damian Lillard. So it's another case that we're seeing, like with the Brooklyn Nets, like to a certain extent with the Phoenix Suns, where you give up your defensive prowess for more shooting. And in the case of the Bucks especially, sometimes it could be shooting that's needed. Again, Dame is going to give you a lot of perimeter shooting that Giannis just won't. Giannis is great. He's a great all-around guy. He's going to get most of his points in the paint. But when you need a guy to close out a game on the perimeter, you're going to want Damian Lillard. And I think Giannis would even be the first to admit that. That's why they brought him in. So, you give up your defensive firepower to bring in more offense. But then the question always needs to be asked, did you need more offense, or were you just a smidge, just a tiny bit being a little greedy? Where it's like, hey, if we get the best shooters on our team, if we become an offensive powerhouse, we'll just steamroll over everyone. And I think we're seeing that doesn't necessarily happen. It'll get you to a certain level. But, I mean, isn't that the story of Doc Rivers himself? Like, Doc Rivers, I know people like to shit on Doc. I get it. People like to poo-poo on Doc Rivers and go, well, for such a great coach who's won all these games throughout his career, he's blown more 3-2 leads and 3-1 leads in the playoffs than any coach ever. And I've even heard people bring up when he was coach of the year back in Orlando, early on in his career, that he was, maybe statistically speaking, the worst coach of the year, because at the time he got, they weren't a great team and he made them a better team. But that year he got the coach of the year. They were like 30 and 60 the year before, and, 30 and whatever. And he got them to like 40 and 40. So he went from like 30 and 50 to 40 and 40. He got them up to 500. Okay, I would like to go back and see whatever coaches were around, during that year he got the award, to see how he compares, because that's a pretty low bar that year if that's what we're doing. But I digress. That's in the past. We've seen him have shots at the Clippers. We've seen him have shots in Philly. We thought Philly was going to be the last stop. He took a job with ESPN. Not for nothing. I'm sorry. I'm glad. Part of me is glad he's going back to coaching. Let's just say was not a fan of him doing the games, but whatever. We don't have to worry about that anymore. We move forward. He's a coach again now. And I think if he's going to have any shot, if any team is going to be the one to help get him off the schneid, over the hump, whatever expression you want to throw out there, it's going to be this team. It's going to be the Bucks, because it seems like he's walking into a situation where they just need stability. Sometimes you just need a guy to walk in who's got a big pedigree, which he does. You gotta give him credit. He's a championship coach. You got to give him that. And he's had a lot of success, even if it caps out in the playoffs. Sometimes you need a coach who's just going to come in, be like, okay, we're going to do X, Y, Z. Here's what we're going to do defensively. We're going to do this on offense. Sometimes people just need direction. And when you're a first-time coach like Griffith was, you don't really have accolades jangling off your keychain. And, when you tell people to do something, you tell them to run through a brick wall, you're going to have people going, I don't know. He hasn't done this before. Should we? Because they're also in a position where a lot of those players, most of them, have done this before. They already are champions. So now you throw in a first-time head coach, and it could especially, you could rub each other the wrong way especially hard. Because at that point, then it's like, hey, run through a brick wall for me. And it's like, well, why should I run through a brick wall for you? You should be giving us the benefit of the doubt. We're the ones who've been here this whole time. We're the ones who have the championship accolades. So sometimes, when you have a new coach, it just doesn't work. And sometimes you just need that stability. And if that stability is going to get them over the hump, so be it. Now, with a deep breath in hand, there is the other shoe that might drop, which is, things were going okay in Philly until they hit the playoffs. So this whole situation with the Bucks, it can be confusing for some people. It could be it could seem out of character for Giannis to some people, that he sort of was the face of this changing of the guard on the coaching staff. But it's really just going to come down to the playoffs. Like, this really is a wait and see, because I don't see the Bucks suddenly dropping to, sixth place, eighth. That's not going to happen. And if it does, then clearly that's a new low for Doc Rivers. But it's a new low for the team as well. So we kind of just got to wait and see. Again, that's always the answer. The answer, it seems, is always wait and see. But, it is what it is. What are we going to do? I don't have a magic ball. I can't tell you what's going to happen 3 months from now. So, Doc Rivers is their new coach. So be it. But we move on. And we'll take a trip out west because we're going to do the Western Conference rundown. So, as it stands right now, the end of January, look at who's at the top. Could you have imagined just a couple of years ago that the Oklahoma City Thunder, 32-14, top of the West, basically tied with number 2. I mean, not technically tied, but you know what I mean, with the Minnesota Timberwolves. Maybe even a bigger who'd have thunk it. Timberwolves and OKC have been fighting back and forth for first place for most of the year so far. And it's no wonder, because both teams, for the past couple of years, have invested in really young talent. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Anthony Edwards over in Minnesota. And Anthony Edwards is a great example of someone who we've seen in real time become an all-star, become a star in this league. Because we saw in the FIBA tournament late last year, before the season, him sort of have this coming out party. And, people knew he was good, but this felt like, okay, I'm giving you a preview of where I'm taking this team over the next couple of months, over the next couple of seasons. And we're seeing that happen right now. You could argue, I hate saying, when people go, oh, well, they did it the right way, because there's a million different ways to get to number 1. But in the old school sort of Larry Brown sense, when he used to talk about, doing things the right way and, building a team. I mean, you could look at both those teams and say they did it, quote unquote, the right way. So what does that say for the rest of the league? What does that say for, the Phoenix Suns, who, they're in 6th place, but that could go away by next week. They're in a pretty precarious position. You go back up the card for a second, and you've got the Clippers finally kind of, fulfilling their potential. Number 3 spot, 30-14. Exact opposite of where the Lakers are right now, fighting to stay in the play-in tournament at 24-23. They just won a big game the other night against the Warriors, but it was a big game because they needed the win. It wasn't like they were in 3rd place and, could afford to take the gas off a little bit. And that's probably especially shocking to some people because they looked so good in that in-season tournament, right? They looked outstanding. Remember, everyone was talking about how if they, keep this momentum going, this could be sort of the thing that galvanizes the team. And, if they could play this good all season, the ceiling for the Lakers, like they go, man, maybe LeBron could get another one. And look, I'm not going to sit here and say they can't, because they've proven that they can come back from being, trapped in the bottom of the play-in to reaching the Western Conference Finals. So, they've got that playoff experience. LeBron's got that playoff experience, especially. Like, you can't count this team out. I know every year people are going to say, well, LeBron's another year older, so you can't always rely on him. Listen, Father Time is undefeated, but Father Time has never met a man like LeBron James. And again, I'm not a LeBron James super fan. I'm not a LeBron James hater. I'm pretty neutral on LeBron James. I'm going to tell you how it is straight. Like, he's making the case that, like, when you see guys like Tom Brady now, who are in that, like, upper echelon of player, where they use the money they have to keep their body in impeccable shape well into their 40s, Don't be shocked if you see LeBron in this league longer than you think. Don't be shocked. Like he's doing things that as a basketball fan, we should be appreciating. Well, love him or hate him, because you look at the point totals, you look at what he's doing, just his averages, for this season, last season, basically most of his time with the Lakers so far. And I'll just say this: in order to see someone new reach those levels, we will be waiting another 10 to 20 years if someone like that comes along. So, enjoy it while you can. But that's not the only thing you're going to enjoy at the Lakers right now, because, like I said, they're in the play-in. They're trying to fight their way back out, and they're going to have to make some moves at the deadline. I don't think Darvin Ham is going to go. I think people, especially Lakers fans, fall way too hard for the whole, like, oh, we just got to fire the coach. If we fire the coach, that'll be, the thing we need to kickstart this team. It's like, no, you don't get to fire the coach this year. Like, if I had my way, I'd be like, no. Yeah, you guys were on a roll earlier this year. You were roiling into the first part of this season. And just because you hit a little snag and you hit some hiccups, why don't you tell the role players to step up a little bit? And again, that doesn't mean you can the role players either. You have to boot Rui Hashimura, out of LA. But, just pull them to the side and be like, hey, listen, do you like playing here? Because, there is a trade deadline coming up. You can put the fear of God into them a little bit. But that's where the Lakers stand. And then again, going back to the Clippers, they're kind of riding high right now. But again, they're a team that is very much predicated on playoff success. That's why Kawhi's there. This is not a team that, has been slow going like the Timberwolves or OKC, where it's, okay, we're going to take this step this year, then we're going to, get playoff bound next season, then we're going to be in contention for the next 5 years. This team's got a time limit. This team's got a time limit that's rapidly coming up, so they better move. And they better move quickly. They better take advantage of this window quickly, because do not be fooled by the fact that the Nuggets are in fourth. 32-15, still a great record, and they've still got Jokic, and they're still the reigning champions. So, you always get the benefit of the doubt when you're the reigning champions, and especially when you're in contention. And it's not like number 4 is no joke. So, I could see people quietly, again, poo-pooing this team and being like, well, they can't do it again. It's hard to do it again. I don't know. Hard to be MVP 2 years in a row. Jokic seemed to do it. Hard to get back to the finals. I could see him doing it again. So, you got to at least give them the benefit of the doubt if you're wary of them right now. And that's kind of where they stand. The Kings are in an interesting spot. Again, Kings always seem to get hot right when the Western Conference is like getting really crowded. So, the Kings got hot, back when I was in high school in the early 2000s. And it was like, okay, this is great for the Kings, but they would always run into the Lakers. And, right now it's like, okay, great for the Kings. They're doing a great job. They have this whole new identity, release the beam or whatever. And, unfortunately, there's just the 4 teams above them are probably the 4 better teams. And then you throw in teams below them that have that playoff experience, like the Phoenix Suns, like the Lakers, if they can, get themselves out of the play-in. Even the Mavs, like, can you tell me with a straight face that, if you had a 7-game series, Kings-Mavs, that the Kings would absolutely run away with it? I don't think you can. So that's where they are right now. The Suns, again, I'm biased, man. Listen, if you've been listening for a long time, you know me. I'm a longtime Nets fan. I've been through the whole KD Kyrie saga. So KD on the Suns, inside. I'm happy they're not higher. I think they're doing the same mistakes that some of the same mistakes that they made in Brooklyn. Like I mentioned in the last segment, you know, are Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, and Kevin Durant great when they're all on the court? Yeah, but KD can get injured at any time. Frankly, all three of them could get injured at any time. And then when they're on the court, they don't really have great defense. So, again, when you have that type of a team, a lot of times, especially when the conference is crowded like this, you're going to get a team that's 26-20. That's great, but that's only good for 6. It's only good for 6, and they're right on the edge of being bumped into the play-in. And if they were in the 7th or 8th seed, would they probably make it into the playoffs? Yeah, probably. But I think, is another example. Hey, we're making a big 3 and we're going to make a run for it. And I don't know if it's going to work. I don't know. They have to make some pretty smart trades to get this thing going quickly before the end of the season. I think the All-Star break is going to be real telling for a lot of teams and how they come back from having that time off and how they regroup. And I think the Suns could be one of those teams where they could either really pull together and light a fire under themselves or fall back down into the play-in. And speaking of the play-in, got the Pelicans. Listen, Pelicans, as far as I'm concerned, are overachieving this season. 26-20. Hey, if I'm a Pels fan, I'm taking it. Because you don't know what Zion's going to give you on any given night. When he's great, he's great. When he's not, he's not. I mean, he's Zion. Like, he's got to build up his reputation right now. This is the season where he's got to do it. Because a lot of people who are smarter than myself have been opining over the past couple of months that, the next couple of years are going to be very telling for Zion Williamson. Every time he's interviewed and asked point blank about people are saying you don't want it as much, you like the lifestyle, you're one of these people that you like the lifestyle, but you don't like, really putting in the work. I feel like I feel like it might be catching up to him. I feel like he may be starting to turn a little bit in a good way. So we will see how far this Pelicans team can go. But again, stacked Western Conference. Would have been nice to have Zion the past couple of years, especially when the Pels were, making some noise in the playoffs the past 2 years. And now it seems like, this, even if Zion gets hot, like this is not going to be the year for them. But again, we'll see. Mavs are in I'm going to say similar boat, but they're in an interesting spot. Because again, they're in the 8th seed, so they're in the play-in. But I think if you watch them play, if you really watch this Mavs team, if you're close enough to them where you watch a lot of Mavs games, they're really good on the court. Like they have found their chemistry. And look, last season when they ended it, basically forfeiting their chance to be in the playoffs because they wanted to get picks or get the lottery odds. Inconceivable. I can't even think of the words to describe it at that time, nor right now. Because it's one of those things where, you should always take the chance to stay in the game. And I think that was maybe a watershed moment for them. Where, the team kind of looked at that and were like, listen, that was a bad look. We don't want to be in this position again. Let's just make it go away, make that stench, clear out the stench of that decision by just playing great basketball. And even if, we're not going to get it done on some nights, our stars are going to look good. And their stars have looked good. Kyrie, admittedly, again, this is a lifelong Nets fan here, he's looked pretty good. I mean, Luka have looked pretty good together. So I think they may be one of those teams that, is a simmer. They're a simmer team. You know what I mean? Like, they're good right now. Okay, AC, whatever. But then, like, don't be shocked if in the last month and a half of the season, they just go on a run. And they just, boom, like a rocket ship into the playoffs. Lakers, we already talked about, they're ninth. And then, we get to kind of everyone else. I say everyone else because, none of these teams have a chance of getting into the playoffs. I mean, the Jazz maybe, but again, like, you're going to take the Jazz over the pedigree of the Lakers and their playoff aspirations, or the Pelicans if Zion's healthy, or, Luka and Kyrie. Like, I don't know if you take, sorry, Lauri Markkanen, like, okay, great. Jazz have some good players, but, 10th right now for the play-in ain't going to do it. And then you get to the Rockets. That's a reclamation project. They're doing good. They're ahead of schedule, but they're not going to be making any noise outside of maybe sneaking in. Warriors. People are saying they should break it up. I don't know, man. I think I go back and forth. With the Warriors, where part of me is like, yeah, you should break it up, and the other half is like, no, you ride it till the wheels fall off. Like, when you reach a certain stature where you've got, 4 trophies in yay many years, and you've been to all those finals, I think as a fan base, if I were a Golden State Warriors fan, like, I could accept we're going to ride this till the wheels fall off. You know what I mean? Like, when you've had that much success, like, you get that leeway where it's like, okay, we could make a couple really stern decisions right now. Decisions that might anger people, decisions that may be the right decisions in the long term. But it's still a business. They don't want to upset the apple cart too much with the guys they have, although, Clay is a concern at this point. Draymond is a concern at this point for real. So, they've definitely got some big questions they need to answer there. Grizzlies just, they are what they are right now. Like, Ja came back, it was a little bit of excitement, and Ja's out again. So, when Ja's not there, in past years, they've been able to get over that hump, but this year ain't last year, Yesterday's price is not today's price. And speaking of today's price, the Portland Trailblazers, hope they like whatever they got for for Dame, because it ain't helping them. They're in a full-on rebuild right now. Good luck to Chauncey, 13-33. Not good. And speaking of not good, rounding out the West, popping the Spurs. They are 10-36. Is that right? 10-36 with Victor Wembanyama. Now look, I'm not going to sit here and say that, look, they're doing a great job and the record, there's more to it than just the record right now. But if you do go back and you look at, rookie seasons of the greats, LeBron, MJ, like, not great. Not great rookie seasons. But there's usually a little more buzz going on than what there is right now with San Antonio. And I think if you watch a lot of the San Antonio games, which I have not, but I have seen enough of them and have read enough opinions of people who have, that I want to let you in on something. Because if you haven't been paying attention, here's basically what's been going on from my understanding of it, is that they need to cut Victor Wembanyama free. Not from the team or anything. They need to cut him free and let him just cook. Because they're having him in big moments throw the ball out to some nameless wing or whatever. Like people who don't, who nobody cares about and can't do nothing for the team. They're having him facilitate. And it's like, no, you didn't get a Victor Wembanyama just to facilitate. Because when he does, go to the paint, it looks amazing. He looks every bit as good as advertised. But the problem is, they're not using him as much. Now, could this be one of those genius Greg Popovich things where, he's testing something out that we're not seeing in the moment, and, next season, that's going to be the one? You could get me to buy into that. I will grant you that leniency, because we've seen it happen before. Where, remember, he rested players during the season, got fined by the league, put some stuff in his back pocket, and then was like, okay, I'll use this to my advantage in the finals. And then, it worked for him in the way he wanted to, construct certain lineups. So we've seen him do weird tampering and finagling before. So, and again, first year, this is, clearly this is the first year of the reclamation project for the Spurs. So I will give you the complimentary year leniency for Pop. But next year is going to be the year. Training wheels are off next year. Okay. So I'll give you this year, but next year we ain't playing around. So now we jump to the Eastern Conference. There's going to be less to talk about in the Eastern Conference because, let's face it, Western Conference pretty stacked. Eastern Conference not as stacked. Fun stories going on. A couple fun teams to watch in the middle of the pack. But look, we know who's near the top. We know who's in contention. Celtics, Bucks, 76ers. That's your top three. Bucks and Celtics are going to shuffle around a little bit. 76ers are going to stay exactly where they are. If not, maybe go down one. I could see them going down with this Knicks team right now. Listen, I think it's hilarious that as a Brooklyn Nets fan, every single year I tell Knicks fans they're going to be, let's say this past year I told them they're going to be fourth place. That's where they were going to end up. Knicks fans go, no, they got to make some moves. They got to do this. They got to do that. This isn't the year. A couple of years ago, I said they were going to cap out at 5. No. Knicks fan, no one is harder on Knicks players than Knicks fans. Believe me. But this is a team to believe in. You got to give credit where credit is due. This is a great Knicks team. This is a team that has been doubted for a couple years now. I think this is the year where they really show up and show out. Now, as far as being a playoff team, we don't know. Because, again, you got to look at who's in front of them and the people who are right behind them. Could there be a situation where the Cavs beat them in the playoffs? Yeah, there could be. Could there be a situation where the Knicks beat the Cavs? Yeah. Could the Knicks beat the 76ers? That is a tough one. I would say no, but it would be a battle. I think that Joel Embiid, for all the talk of, him being MVP last year and all the, controversy about, it should have been Jokic. They just gave it to him because they wanted to be Jokic again. I'm going to be honest. This is probably the year they should have given it to Embiid. And I think more people would agree to that. If he didn't get it last year and then, to see how he's playing this year, people would be like, yeah, no, of course it's Embiid. So why would you Why would you say it's anyone else? Have you seen him lately? So, you know, wouldn't be shocked if he gets it again, but, hey. Then look, you got the Cavs, you got the Pacers. Pretty much, I would say they're in the same boat. Do I think they're going to make some noise? I think the Cavs could. Well, you know what? I would actually switch that. I would say the Pacers could. I would say the Pacers could because they got Halliburton. You look at what they did in the in-season tournament. They're a team that has not let off since they're the opposite of the Lakers. The Lakers may have got the better of them in the tournament. I think the Pacers came out looking not a little better. You can't say better because they didn't win, but they came out with a lot of momentum, and they've kept that momentum going. Heat, look, they've proven the past couple of years that you cannot dismiss the Heat. And at 7 in the play-in tournament right now, you got to just sort of throw up your hands and be like, okay, I fully expect to see the Heat in the playoff contention. When the playoffs happen, I fully expect Jimmy Butler to come out and make a scene and make us all believe in the Heat again. And do I think they're going to get to the finals? I'm going to say no, but I would not put money on it. Okay, that's my stance on the Heat for now and for the past couple of years. Now we get into a team that I think could make some noise because they've been a really fun story, and that's the Orlando Magic. Listen, they've got Banchero. They've got a bunch of guys down there that have bought in. Again, much like OKC. Now OKC is a little more ahead of schedule, but don't let that take your eye off of what don't let that take away from what the Magic are doing. The Magic are doing some really, really nice stuff down there. You could see, like, they've gotten more national games this year. They're getting a lot more exposure. Even the organization as a whole, you can tell it's kind of amped up. They're doing they're finally retiring. They're finally retiring numbers. They're proud again. They want people to come see the games. So listen, if that doesn't tell you how happy they are right now down in Orlando, I don't know what will, but we'll see what their ceiling is. I would not be shocked they win. I would not be shocked if they win a playoff series. I'm not saying they're going to go all the way. Not saying they're going to do anything crazy, but don't be shocked if they sneak in there and win a whole series. Bulls and Hawks, 9 and 10. They're kind of in the same boat. I would even throw Brooklyn and the Raptors in there. They're sort of in this cluster together of bottom play-in tournament tier. Can they make some moves in the next couple of days or before the trade deadline and get something going? And can they weasel their way up the ranks a little bit? Maybe. If I pick any team to do it, you know what? Call me biased. I think Brooklyn could do it because right now they've got a coaching problem. And if they get rid of Jacques Vaughn and they're just getting Ben Simmons back tonight, laugh all you want. He was good in the beginning of the season before he got injured. And it's a very big if, he could be the facilitator that he was early on in the season, they could start winning some of these close games again. And if they get a better coach in there, all the more, because Cam Thomas has been killing it. Mikal Bridges has been stepping up from the slump that he's had. So, this is a team that needs some restructuring, but if they can do it, I think the ceiling immediately rises. It's not going to rise to, I'm not going to say it's going to rise to top 6, but certainly better than being out of the play-in conversation, which is what they are right now. Just barely, but they're out of it. Same thing with the Raptors. And then we get to really the bottom of the barrel. We get to some perennial losers, quite frankly, of the past couple of years. The Hornets, 10 and 34. They're just, that seems to always be where they are. Just sort of right outside, the play-in. Where it's like, they'll go on these short stretches where it's like, they got a little something, and then they just collapse. Then you've got Washington, 8 and 37. I mean, that speaks for itself. And then the Pistons 6-40. 6-40. Let's ruminate on that for a second. That is outstanding. I mean, whatever team, whatever team, I don't even know. It would take the best minds in the NBA would not be able to come up if they created a consortium and locked themselves away in a bunker somewhere. They could not figure out for the life of them how to fix this Detroit Pistons mess. Because you can't just go, oh, it's coaching. Because we brought in a new coach. Is that coach is Monty Williams that much worse than the coaches they've had before? I'd like to think not. Is it Cade Cunningham? No, Cade's great. Yeah, I'll say it. He's great, but he's being wasted on this team. And when he has these heroic performances, they're never enough because the team's just that bad. And you see the look on his face with those big hangdog eyes, and it's like, oh man, I feel for you, but I mean, it's just where the team is right now, and I don't know how you get out of it. So, that's it. So, Eastern Conference, Western Conference. Let's take a step back to the West for a second. At this point, halfway through the season, if I had to pick the NBA Finals, if I had to pick, look, some of this I'm just throwing darts at a board because there are a million situations here that I would love to see that are not what I'm about to say out of my mouth. But gun to my head, I would have to say Nuggets. Nuggets go back. And Celtics. I think Nuggets Celtics. I think that's fair. Would I like to see something different? Yeah, I'm always for the chaos. I'm always for shaking things up. So I would love to see something a little different than that. But hey, it is what it is, and we acquiesce to the moment and we move on. And like I said, we got a nice cool down right now. Ironic because we're talking about something spicy, but haven't done a snack review in a while. Mostly because I've been trying to cut out snacks. There was a big pay-per-view this weekend. So I was like, you know what? Let me indulge a little bit. It's my cheat day. I'll get a snack. And I've been seeing reviews online about these Cheetos Crunchy Buffalo. And now you may be saying to yourself, man, aren't there, Cheetos Flamin' Hot? Yeah, there are. And aren't there Cheetos like jalapeno cheddar? Yeah, there are. So what makes this one stand out? Like, wouldn't it just be like a lesser version of one of those two? And I'll say this. If you look up reviews on this chip, or I don't even know if you technically call a Cheeto a chip, puffed, crispy puff snack, you'll see not mixed reviews, but you'll see some people going, it doesn't necessarily taste like buffalo sauce, but they get the idea and they're very pleasant. But some people are sort of knocking it because, it's not as spicy as Flamin' Hot or whatever. So here's the deal with it. I went into this thinking that, okay, this is just going to be like a lesser Flaming Hot, and it's not going to be worth it. I love these. These are my not that I'm eating Cheetos all the time, but like these are my favorite Cheetos now. The crunchy buffalo. Because here's a couple reasons why. One, the heat it hits you after you eat a couple of them. So it is milder. It doesn't have the vinegar heat of the jalapeno or the Flamin' Hot. So you can eat a lot more of them in that sense, where it's like they're tastier. Like they genuinely have a good taste to them. Whereas the Flamin' Hots I don't like because it's vinegar and it's heat and it's like they're not enjoyable. This has like a very smooth butter taste. I know butter obviously is one of the main ingredients in buffalo sauce, so that makes sense. So it's got like a nice mild heat with a very smooth, but like the butter hits you immediately. So it's got this smooth butter taste, a little bit of heat, but the heat ramps up when you eat more of it. And here's the most surprising, this may be the most surprising thing. Minimal Cheeto dust. Like, you could pound a whole bag of these and maybe not have, you could clean your fingers off with one napkin. Not like when you eat a regular bag of Cheetos, puffed or crunchy, where you touch 5 of them and you feel dirty. Like, I gotta take a shower now and clean my entire hand off. This is like, they've cut down the dust. No, if there's any vinegar in it at all, I didn't taste it. So they've curtailed the vinegar heat, but it's still got a spice. It's got a smooth, buttery taste in there. These are really delightful. Like, if you dropped off the Cheetos bandwagon for a while because you were sick of like all the Flamin' Hots and they were just doing too much, this is one to pick up. This is one that if you see it, it gets my seal of approval. Yeah, try these out. Because again, I'm not a fan of the Flamin' Hots. I think, once you're above like 18, once you hit 18, above other things, like you need to stop. You need to start watching what kinds of heat you put in your body, because that'll go south sideways. Like when you're in high school and you go with some friends to, a local wing place, and you're like, I'm gonna get the suicide wings, and yeah, you'll still feel terrible, but you'll survive. There comes a point in your life, earlier rather than later, where it's like, yeah, no, I'm done with the suicide. I'm done eating any wing that you need to sign a waiver for before you put it in your body. So, in Flamin' Hots, I know some people love them. The reason they're out there is the reason they Flamin' Hot everything now. But I just can't take it. Like, again, like, it's very vinegar. Like, people, it's the same thing with Takis. People love Takis. My man Stefan Johnson, he hit it on the head when he was like, these taste like eagle talons, like hot vinegary eagle talons. They're too good. They've got too much of a bite to them and not enough genuine flavor. It's just eagle talons dipped in vinegar. That's what it is. But you know what tastes delicious? Cheetos Crunchy Buffalo. So go check those out. Go taste them. Let me know what you think of them. Hit me up on social media. At Oddball Podcast over on Twitter. At Oddball_pod over on Instagram. Follow the personal accounts at Mighty Vin over on Twitter and at Vin Forte NYC over on Instagram. And yeah, that was quite a show today. Did a good big rundown. That was like a 35, 40-minute rundown. That was nice. Enjoyed doing that. But like I said, we usually try and have a guest next week. We will have a guest again. I can't say who, but just know that we will have someone else here with me. So look forward to that. And with all that said, I'll see you back here. Same time, same place. You've been listening to Oddball of Vin Forte. My name is Vin Forte. YouTube.com/@Oddball Podcast. Bye-bye.